What up, family? We back at it again with another reaction. Today I'm gonna do Elvis, a little documentary, but it's a little sad one. You know what it was really like the day Elvis died. I mean, this is the first one I've seen, so I just wanted to do it. I appreciate you Elvis fans. You guys have supported me so much. You know what I mean? Keep it going. Subscribe to the channel, like, and let's get right into it.
Few, if any, figures in rock
What
and
it
roll
was
history are
really
as
like
timeless
the day
or
Elvis
controversial
died.
as Elvis Presley. Both a rebel and a heartthrob, Elvis changed the way the world thought about music, pop culture, and celebrity. Here's what the last 12 months of Elvis's life were like. The
And
last
you guys
person
let
to
me
see
know if it's
Elvis
accurate.
Presley alive, and the person who heard his last words, was Ginger Alden, the singer's fiancée. Alden was just
Damn,
20 years
Ginger.
old at the time, half the age of her partner, per the Sydney Morning Herald.
Damn,
Alden
beautiful.
had given two slightly conflicting reports about the last words
Elvis
ever
got
spoken by
tased,
the king
boy.
of rock and roll, but neither quote is of much significance. Elvis's last words might have been, "I'm going to the bathroom to read." Or, in response to Alden's admonition for him to not fall asleep in the lavatory, Elvis reportedly replied, "I won't."
The last thing Elvis said to me, I told him not to fall asleep in the bathroom, and he said, I won't.
Alden had reason to be concerned, as her fiancé had insomnia, which he tried to overcome through strong sedatives,
Man,
as
these
reported by
sexy
the Los
ladies.
Angeles Times.
Elvis, you
It
one
was
lucky
early in the
man. Look
morning of
at
August
you.
16,
Lucky as dude.
1977, when Elvis slipped out of the bedroom and headed for the bathroom, and Alden went back to sleep. She would remain asleep until the early afternoon, when she found her partner cold on the bathroom floor. Fortunately for Presley's legacy, he left behind 18 #1 hit songs in the Billboard charts, and he's better remembered for his music.
Hold on,
than
when
for
he
his final
died, he
words.
left 18. Number one.
The book
What the
Elvis
fuck?
Presley took along with him to the bathroom on the last morning of his life
Final
was
book.
Frank Adams' A Scientific Search for the Face of Jesus, which had been published 5 years prior. The book is focused on the Shroud of Turin, the piece of fabric purported to have been laid across the face and body of Jesus after his crucifixion. Most modern scholars,
Wow.
scientists, and forensic experts now doubt the authenticity of the Shroud of Turin. Carbon dating shows it is likely from sometime between 1260 and 1390 AD, well after the purported lifetime of Christ, but the shroud remains an object of wonder today, just as it was in the 1970s. Presley had maintained a Christian faith throughout his life, apparently being twice baptized while alive and once posthumously, according to USA Today. He was also keenly interested in religion in general, often practicing meditation and wearing both a cross and a Star of David at times, as Elvis had Jewish ancestry on his mother's side. According to USA Today, not
Oh, yeah,
long
I heard
before
he
his
spoke
death,
Hebrew
he
and
may
everything.
even have
That's
been
what I heard.
considering a conversion to Mormonism.
My name is Irving Tisman. Today we're going to do a little furniture shopping.
Around 5 a.m. on the morning of August 16,
Raising
1977,
the alarm.
Elvis Presley and fiancée Ginger Alden went to bed together after spending much of the night awake, despite Elvis trying to nod off with the aid of various prescription drugs, according to the Express. At 7 a.m., Elvis apparently took another round of pills, desperate to get some rest given that he was slated to fly to Maine that evening, before a concert the next day, and then continue on a tour around the nation. Still unable to sleep, Elvis left his bedroom, saying his last words to Alden at around 9:30 a.m. Alden fell back asleep and remained slumbering until shortly before 1:30 p.m., awaking to find herself alone.
Look at that
in
man's
bed.
beauty.
Alden went to
Look
look
at
for her fiancé. Approximately 4 hours had elapsed since the last time anyone had seen Presley alive, and it's entirely possible that he had slipped into unconsciousness in the middle of the morning, thus spending the last few hours of his life alone and incapacitated.
Damn.
Ginger Alden,
That's sad.
Presley's young model fiancé, found
Finding
Elvis on the
Elvis.
bathroom floor that afternoon in August. According to Memphis Magazine, she went to the bathroom door and called his name. When there was no answer, she entered and found him lying face down on the bathroom carpet. There are conflicting accounts as to how Alden found her partner. Memphis Magazine shares that Presley had been sitting in a lounging chair in the bathroom and that he had evidently lost consciousness and slipped out of the seat and onto the floor of the room. The more indelicate version of the story, and the one more commonly repeated, is that Alden found Elvis on the floor of the bathroom, him having slipped off the toilet after losing consciousness. It's well known that Presley had constipation issues due to a terrible diet, consisting largely of unhealthy foods and his heavy use of medications, as described by the Mirror.
But then again, in my mind, there are a lot of unanswered questions.
In the moments after Ginger Alden found Elvis Presley lying on the
Ginger,
floor,
Ginger.
she tried to revive her partner. Alden later described how she touched Presley's skin and found it cold, though he may have still been alive.
Hold on, if it's
According to the
cold.
Sydney Morning Herald, Alden said, "I slapped him a few times."
Hold on. She said that when she went in, it was cold. That means he was there for a while. If he was cold. Because when you die, you don't get cold like this. I know that, right? Let me know. I'm not an expert, but shit.
and it was like he breathed once when I turned his head. I couldn't move him. Alden summoned Joseph Esposito, a friend of Presley's from his days in the United States Army, who had come to serve the singer as both a personal and professional manager. Esposito attempted to revive Presley with rudimentary first aid while awaiting an ambulance. Presley was then rushed to the nearby hospital, but it was already too late.
His road manager tried to revive him. He failed. A hospital tried to revive him. It failed.
Elvis Presley was officially pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. on August 16, 1977.
Yeah, he died the year my brother was born.
A few miles from his Graceland mansion, and it was there that the official pronouncement
My brother was 2 months old.
It's likely that he died much earlier, perhaps even several hours before.
Wow.
By 4 p.m. that day, word had gotten out to the public that the king of rock and roll had expired, and the news quickly spread across the nation.
Oh my God, I could imagine.
According to Country Music Nation, within hours of the death announcement, thousands of fans gathered outside of Elvis's Graceland mansion. Some traveled hundreds of miles to be there, feeling compelled to be at the place where Elvis spent his
Wow, look at that.
At Graceland, around the nation and across the world, people expressed shock, sorrow, and in many cases, disbelief. Theories that the news was a hoax and that Elvis had not actually died persisted for decades, and some fans even believe that he is still alive today. Conspiracy theories include the idea that the singer faked his own death to escape public attention, and the notion...
Listen, dude is still alive through other people. There's thousands and thousands of people who act like Elvis, who dress up like him, who perform concerts, big concerts, man. You know what I mean? So, Elvis still is, man. Trust me.
And that it was a cover-up to help the king of rock and roll
to us, through our videos we're putting out, we're making him still live.
On the day of Presley's death, the mayor of Memphis ordered flags in the city to be flown at half-staff. And by the next day, the news was making headlines all around the world. Even though Presley was far past the peak of his fame when he died in 1977, he was still very much an icon. His death dominated the news cycle for days.
Forever an icon.
Soon enough, much of the world moved on to other things, but many die-hard fans would mourn their lost hero for years to come.
Wow.
I miss that we didn't get to see where he was going to go and you know, hear more of his music.
At the time of his death, the famously handsome Elvis Presley was overweight, plagued by insomnia, and regularly taking a cocktail of pills. He was reportedly consuming thousands of calories per day and living off a diet of burgers and a sandwich of his own invention that included bacon and bananas, according to ABC Science. Despite being just 42 at the time of his death, he had high blood pressure and had been hospitalized for intestinal blockage, according to the Washington Post. The multiple drugs that Presley often took also wreaked havoc on his mental health. According to the Express, in the summer of 1977, Presley called the White House and managed to get recently elected President Jimmy Carter on the phone. Carter later said of the call, he was totally stoned and didn't know what he was saying. His sentences were almost incoherent. I talked to him for a long time to ease Presley out of his paranoid delusions, calming his fears that he was being shadowed by sinister forces and that his friend was being framed. Presley would reportedly call the White House many more times in the weeks before his death, but was never again put through to the commander-in-chief.
Damn, man, my boy Presley, man.
With his Maybach, he thinks he's the fucking hot.
Oh, life catches up to him. You know, life started catching up to him.
August 16, 1977, was heart failure. But the cardiac incident that led to the king's death was reportedly no random fluke, but rather a direct result of his heavy use and serious abuse.
Yo, so listen, this guy was all about the people, for the people. This guy, like I said, he should have been president. You know what I mean? Like, he was for the people. That's why he's just only slept 4 hours. Every time he was up, he would be performing for the people. Like, you know, and then when it was time to slow down, you can't slow down. You got to keep that same diet, because if you don't, things happen to your body.
Of a myriad of medications, chiefly sedatives, barbiturates, and opiates. Per Town and Country, when the toxicology report of the performer's blood came back from analysis several weeks after his death,
let him know who you is.
Dosages of,
look at you, Matrix before the Matrix. Seen that?
Percodan and Demerol, as well as Quaaludes and codeine.
Wow.
They reported traces of 10
codeine,
separate drugs.
However, shortly after his death, Tennessee's chief medical examiner Jerry Francisco said of Presley, had these drugs not been there, he still would have died. Presley had been misusing pills for years, and more heavily so in the last year and a half of his life.
Damn.
It was reported by people that Elvis's personal physician, Dr. George Nikopoulos, known simply as Dr. Nick, had reportedly provided his patient with as many as 12,000 pills in the 18 months before Presley died. The doctor later claimed that the pills were intended to be shared among Presley's entire entourage,
What?
but it's likely he knew exactly where they would go.
That's against
Several
the law.
years later, the doctor would have his medical license temporarily suspended.
Temporarily?
He faced 11 felony counts of
It should be
overprescribing drugs
permanent.
in 1981. But
Not,
was
not temporarily,
Dr. Nate
permanently.
was finally permanently suspended from practice by the Tennessee Board of
There we
Medical
go.
Examiners
Fuck.
in 1995, nearly 20 years after the death of his most famous patient.
20 years after, so he's
The
made
body
all that
of Elvis
money still
Presley
being a
is
doctor
buried
for
at
20
Graceland,
years?
his beloved home in Memphis, Tennessee.
Fucking
His grave is
power.
flanked by the burial sites of his grandmother, Minnie Mae
That is
Presley, who died in
beautiful.
May 1980. His father, Vernon Elvis
Oh my
Presley, who
God.
died less than 2 years after his son, passing in June 1979, and his mother, Gladys Presley.
Wow,
who
the
died
father
in
buried the
1958.
son.
The graves are in the
Wow.
Meditation Garden, and according to the official Graceland
The father
website,
buried his son.
millions of
That's
fans
sad.
from around the world have come to Graceland to pay their respects to Elvis. Elvis Presley's funeral took place on August 18, 1977, 2 days after his death. Though the actual ceremony was not a lavish affair and was attended by a small, select group of mourners, thousands of Elvis fans converged on Memphis in the 48 hours after his passing. The crowds were so large that, according to Live About, President Carter ordered 300 National Guard troops to the area to maintain order.
What?
Despite being one of the most famous and
I
successful
think they said
musicians
80,000
of all time,
people, so
Elvis Presley
you need
was not all
those
that
Coast
wealthy at
Guard
the time of his death.
or National
According
Guard.
to the Express, Presley had a net worth of around $5 million at the time of his death, which would equate to approximately $21 million today.
Today,
How is
yeah.
it that the man with 18 #1 hit singles and multiple beloved movies, who toured the nation and was known around the world, was worth so relatively little when he died? Quite simply, it's because Presley spent so much money. From furnishing his Graceland mansion in lavish style, to owning 2 private jets, to keeping a huge staff on
But he
salary,
owns all
to his
that, you know
own
what I mean?
massive appetites
It's
for
not like
foods
he
and
leased
drugs,
them, he owns them.
Elvis
That's
had a
why his
lifestyle
money
that cost a lot
went.
of money. He also spent freely on friends and family, and had agreed to provide his ex-wife, Priscilla Presley, with 5% of his significant publishing rights, the Express Report.
Awesome.
However, his estate is worth a huge amount today. In
Oh, yeah.
2020, Cheat Sheet reported Elvis's estate is still so profitable 4 decades after his death that he is the 5th highest paid dead celebrity of 2020.
Wow.
And as it turns out, his
Priscilla
estate
getting
made
it.
more money this year than the singer had the year he died.
Wow.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction,
Yeah, people, please.
call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration's
Yeah.
24/7 national helpline.
Mental
at
health and
1-800-662
substance abuse is real. It's real.
HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357.
Wow. Elvis, rest in peace, Elvis. We love you, man. Wish you were here. Yo, people, subscribe to the channel. Leave a like. Do what you got to do. Rest in peace, Elvis. You know, until next time. Peace.